Hey, restaurant pros. One of the most repeated questions in my restaurant transformation intensive group coaching program from newer members seems to be questions about restaurant tipping policies. And while this is mainly a member driven discussion, I want to share with you that my view on restaurant tipping policies has changed. Stay tuned and I'll share with you my views and transformation on the subject. I'm David Scott Peters, restaurant expert coach and creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula, and I've been coaching restaurant owners since 2003. I'm really glad you're here to learn. Let's dive into the topic of restaurant tipping policies and how it's changed over the decades. Before I get into this, if you like tips and tricks like this, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and oh yeah, that bell so you're notified when my next video tip comes out. And for more tips and tricks for running a profitable restaurant, make sure you tune in my podcast, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, found on all the popular podcasting services. First, let me share with you, I'm very old school in my thought process growing up in the restaurant industry in the 1980s and the 1990s. What does this mean? I've got some backward thinking, old school thinking that needed to change. So what was my old school thinking? Well, as a restaurant employee, I never believed in tip pooling other than behind the bar. Somebody worked the service well so the others could work the bar. We shared in our tips. We were a team. But if I were working alone, the last thing I want to do is share my tips with that subpar performing server who is walking and only took a few tables because I'm going to hustle my ass off and I'm going to give great service and I'm going to make money. So in some cases, my thought process is very selfish, right? It's all about my performance. I can make more money than anybody else. The second thing in my brain is growing up when fast food restaurants really started to take off. I can remember driving 30 minutes to go to a McDonald's because it was in our town. Well, in any quick serve restaurant back growing up, when you see that tip jar, I didn't believe that tipping was customary. And when you saw the handwritten word says tips on a piece of paper, I felt like it was a begging jar. Because as a full service kid growing up, I'm like, all the work we had to do to provide an experience for the guests, this person, all they do is grab a burger and some fries and throw it in a bag and hand it to me. So again, a little backward thinking, not truly understanding what hospitality meant in our industry back then, but that stays with me. It stays with me. Both of these things stayed with me as a manager and as my years go on. Well, a lot has changed since then. At the time of recording this tip, 2022 is virtually upon us. So much about running a restaurant has changed over the last 40 plus years. I want you to think about this. When I grew up in the 1980s and got my first job, minimum wage was $1.35. $1.35 an hour. Today, virtually many places across the country is $15 an hour. If I look back, we used to have just about everybody was a tip credit state where you could pay somebody way below minimum wage because their tips brought them up or over a minimum wage. Well, tip credit states are almost extinct. Rents have skyrocketed. In the old days, you would get a lease location because your rent would be so small that you could make a lot of cash every month, time and time again. And then we had these concepts like Boston Chicken, now known as Boston Market. When they exploded on the marketplace, they screwed so many of us by driving rates up because they would come in behind somebody who had a signed lease and say, we're a national chain, we'll pay you double. And all of a sudden, rents went through the roof. Food costs. Food costs have exploded like an atomic bomb on your restaurant's P&L. Do I need to tell you what's happened with our food prices over the years? Customers used to walk in the door with cash in hand. Remember, they had a wallet and greenbacks they'd pull out. Today, 90% of your receipts are probably credit cards or more, which means the credit card companies are taking their 2 to 3% out of our back pocket. We went from green bar paper and an adding machine to do our numbers and run our restaurant to now we need software to run our business. We need third-party delivery services. We've got all these things pulling from our margins. Then when it comes to our employees, the new younger generations, millennials and younger, they want more than a paycheck. They want to feel a part of something bigger, a part of a team. So when you put all these things together, I can tell you, so as of today, my views have changed. All my backward thinking needs to be swept into the garbage pail. See, my members have taught me what is starting to make things work better in the restaurant, to work better in today's restaurant industry. Things like in quick service, quick casual, fast food restaurants, where credit card machines, right, the swipes are right for the guest, right there for the guest to use on their own. And a message comes up and says, hey, would you like to leave a tip for the employees? Well, now it's customary to leave a tip for a quick service restaurant. The next thing is tip pooling. It started with, this newfangled way to try and kind of push minimum wage increases off onto the guest to help the whole restaurant, sometimes viewed as the restaurant owners trying to pay less. Well, today you can't pay less. $15 an hour minimum wage is, again, coast to coast. And then across the country after the pandemic, most everybody's paying more than that. So that's a non-issue. So tip pooling with the entire restaurant, other than managers, of course, is becoming more and more popular because it allows you to recruit better employees, keep better employees for longer, both front of house and back house, because they changed the law allowing you to tip or allow your back house to participate. Now we're seeing people who are paying really healthy wages hourly, but also showing the benefit of working here, that you make $4, $5, $6+ an hour more than the restaurant down the street because of tip pooling. See, in this mindset, the employer, you, the restaurant owner, are still paying a higher wage plus the tips, which allows you to spread the wealth. You're not cheating, if you will, and paying lower wages in order to say, pay your cooks, here are the tips. So you're becoming more attractive versus a way to reduce your costs. See, you'll ultimately have to decide what fits best for your restaurant, whether it's tip pooling or going individually. Just know that it's something that's very important to your restaurant's future, to figure that out, to know your company culture and your future and current team members. You've got to think about it because things have changed. If you're tired of not being able to leave your restaurant because no one else knows how to run it, I want to make sure you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can leave your restaurant. It is possible to build a team of people who know how you want the restaurant to run with trained and responsible people in place. You can give yourself time away. What would you do if you had time away from your restaurant? Would you sleep better? Would your relationships improve? Would you feel more relaxed? These are all things you deserve to experience as a business owner. It's why we own our own businesses. If you would like to learn how to own a restaurant that doesn't depend on you to be successful, click the link in the description to watch a free video to learn exactly what you have to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to get my weekly tips and watch these 2 videos to get more information and guidance for running a successful restaurant.